Hey everybody, we are back after a short break to our regular recording schedule. I'm Tyler with NORLAB, and today we're going to do a quick overview of the parts that make up a chemical or containment fume hood. Remember from our last video, a chemical or containment fume hood is what we think about when we think about fume hoods in laboratories, and they are used to contain dangerous chemicals inside of them and protect users from those chemicals. So let's go over the parts of an extraction or containment fume hood. On the outside of the fume hood are the painted panels. These are normally painted with a CIFA 8 grade paint to make sure it's chemically resistant. Some of the panels, like the posts, are fixed, while other panels, like the valence and side panels, can be removable for service and or access to the components that make up the hood. Next, at the bottom of the fume hood, on the inside, is the work surface. And this is where the science really occurs. They can come with sinks or cup sinks or drains and can be made up of different materials. But we have to be very careful when we place objects inside of the fume hood on the work surface to make sure they're in the right spot, otherwise we can affect containment. At the front of the hood, between the posts and on top of the work surface, is the airfoil. And the airfoil looks like an armrest, which it is, but it's also a very important portion of the containment system. And it has a little gap underneath it between the work surface that allows air to be sucked in from the outside, inside of the airfoil, and then pushed across, or sucked across the work surface in a laminar flow. The sash, or the window, sits on top of the airfoil and between the posts. And it's the part that we use the most and interact with it the most with the fume hood. Usually it goes up and down. It's got a glass front. They can come in different configurations, but they serve a couple of different purposes. First is to protect the user in case of an explosion as part of a safety shield. The other is to limit how much air is going into the fume hood and is an important part of the containment system. On the interior of the fume hood are the liner and the baffles. These are normally made up of the same type of material, normally chemically resistant, because this is where the science is occurring and they're exposed to all the chemicals. Of those two components, the baffles are the most important, and that's because they direct the air that's coming in from the front of the hood up and out. If a manufacturer ships adjustable baffles, only adjust them as they allow, and if they ship fixed baffles, do not adjust them. And last we have the accessories, the accoutrement of the fume hood. This is the accessories that you can pick based on the requirements of the hood. So these are things like receptacles, light switches, services like air, vacuum, or nitrogen, alarms that are highly recommended because they help the users know if the fume hood is going to be in service. These are all offered from multiple vendors and have multiple options depending on your needs. You may have noticed that we did not talk about the blower or exhaust motor. That's because here in Canada, it's not actually part of the fume hood. CSA tells us that it has to be as close to the exterior of the building as possible to maintain a negatively pressurized duct. So if there's a hole in the duct system between the fume hood and the outside, contaminated air doesn't go out into the building. Instead, it gets sucked from the building into the duct. It's important to note that that HVAC requirement needs to be handled by a professional and needs to be engineered by an HVAC specialist. So those are the different parts that make up a chemical or containment fume hood. Next, we're going to do a deep dive into each of those parts and the different types of materials that you can specify, why we would specify them, and how they affect both the safety and the longevity of the piece of equipment. And as always, we would appreciate it if you could leave a like or a comment for ideas on future topics. Thank you so much, and see you next time.